Researchers have projected that the African continent free trade area will increase intra-African trade volumes to 52% should all African countries ratify the agreement. According to Dr. Isaac Shinyekwa, a senior research fellow and the head of trade and regional integration at Economic Policy Research Center based at Makerere University, the African continent free trade area will increase trade and lower the cost of other products whose prices are already high.
Now, what are we looking at? We are looking at a population of 1.2 billion people as a market area. And we are thinking that this will be an area with about $3.4 trillion in terms of the size of the economy. And we think that when we eliminate the tariffs among our countries, we are going to increase trade significantly among ourselves. Now, we started by negotiating on trade in goods and services. Right now, we have now gone to, we are supposed to go to other areas of negotiation, one of them being investment. Investment is one of the areas that we are yet to, that we were supposed to have negotiated. Now, the reason why we have not taken off on 1st of July was because negotiations by their nature need to be in one room. Zooming is difficult. We might be zooming as we are negotiating, and for reasons of internet, one country is off. Some countries are in lockdowns, and these things go on up to midnight and whatever. So there were technicalities. People need to be face to face. So they said we will stop for now, but we think this continental free trade area will help us generate quite a lot of trade, free movement of persons on the African continent, investment attraction within the continent, and this will help our continent move to another level.
The African Continent Free Trade Area was launched in 2018 by 44 African states with an aim of bringing together all 55 member states of the African Union, covering a market of more than 1.2 billion people, including a growing middle and a combined gross domestic product of more than $3.4 trillion. To date, 30 countries have both signed and approved the ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
So what is this animal, AfCTA as they call it, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? This is a trade agreement of the African countries that have come together to form a free trade area with the intent finally to get into a customs union and the other steps upwards. Of course, I will explain what these terms mean. In 2018, I think it was around March, when the countries met in Kigali, and 44 of them appended their signatures to this agreement to increase trade among the African countries. Now, one step of signing the agreement was very successful, but there's what we call ratification. When now countries go back in their own economies, go to their parliaments, place the agreement before the parliament is discussed, and once the parliament passes it, we call it a ratification process. And once the ratification has taken place, then we take what they call the instruments of ratification to the Secretariat of the African Union. Now, as we talk right now, I think 29 countries have already ratified. We needed only 22 for ratification. And then we agreed that in 2020, on 1st July, we effect the AfCTA to start operating. But for obvious reasons, because of COVID, this has been postponed to a later date, probably January, when this is what Mr. Mene Wamukele, the Secretary General of the AfCTA, put to our, to us recently. So as we talk right now, 54 of the 55 countries have signed, 29 have ratified. So it can be effected among those countries.
According to Shinyekwa, should the remaining countries ratify this agreement, this will not only increase trade but also free movement of people and goods. To answer the question of its applicability and the likely challenges that the agreement is going to face, Shinyekwa says the advantages outweigh the disadvantages and therefore we should focus more on its benefits.
Before I answer your question, I would like to pose a question. Suppose we didn't have the ESC at all. What would the situation be? In modeling, we call it assuming there's no business, or we call it the baseline. I mean, assuming East Africa didn't have. We will not be going to Kenya easily. We would have to get a visa. We will not be going to the other countries without a visa. I think it will be a lot more difficult. I do agree with you, we have hitches. These hitches are not only common to the East African community. No, these hitches happen in all these communities. NAFTA recently, they had to renegotiate it. You know, the EU had the Brits moving out. So let's not put our focus on these challenges and forget the main thing. Indeed, we have had these issues, and sometimes resolving them is difficult, I can assure you. But this marriage, if I may call it, is better than no marriage. It has outputs, it has elements, it has good things, although there will be challenges. There will be, whenever you get more than one person in a room, there will always be challenges. I want to sleep, no, me, I'm still awake. You snore, for me, you know, there will always be issues. So we have got these issues. That's why there are even mechanisms for dispute resolution in these negotiations. And you have seen how our presidents have moved to. You remember the time when the summit even collapsed? It's no more in this process. And then the question, are we ready? We will never be ready. We are ready. We have to deal with the issue. When you're confronted with a situation, you don't wait until you're ready. Otherwise, you will never be ready. You have to take a step and deal with the situation as it comes. Me, I think, as East Africans and as Africa, we are ready. But it's not going to be a rosy movement. It's not going to be a smooth sail. There's going to be turbulent. There are going to be potholes. There are going to be humps. You get it, eh? But can we deal with them and move on? That's how I will respond to your question. We will never be ready. We are ready.
Due to the conflicts in other parts of Africa that may frustrate the agreement, Shinyekwa says it is only possible through a combined effort as African Union to fight instabilities.
One of the biggest challenges we have on the African continent is conflict. Who is behind this conflict? That's a very big question, which we will not answer in this room right now, but we can poke a little bit. I want you to look at Somalia as a failed state, but who has brought Somalia to where it is right now? It's not even America. It's not even Europe. Yes, they have funded us, but they had failed militarily until an African country intervened. Suppose we have a successful African Union, and then from that we say, okay, can we have a standing force, army, which can say, okay, can we deal with the issues of Libya, for that matter? That's how our friends in the West manage their things. There was a coalition that were willing that attacked Iraq, you remember? When Bush was in power. NATO is the one that removed the Gaddafi. They come in as a group. So some of us think this will give us some muscle. Now, these conflicts are really bad and they reduce. Some of them are caused by dictatorships in Africa. Some of them are caused by interference, external interference. When we are in the same country, they want to interfere, I'm in power, they will come and fund you. And these are the Western countries. There's no secret about that. So what these things do is they affect negatively. But as we go into this region, you remember when we had a challenge in the Congo? Actually, it was SADC and the ESC. I don't know if you recall that. SADC and the ESC were at war in the Congo. But how did they resolve it? Because it would mean the whole continent is at war. Uganda and Rwanda were in the Congo, you remember that time? And then the entire SADC was standing on the other side. So these are very, very, that's why Europe doesn't fight, because they are very careful. They know what war is, and they're already in these arrangements. So these arrangements will help us solve these problems, but we need to solve the problems of foreign interference on the African soil. This is one of the biggest challenges. The Libyan issue was foreign interference, total and absolute. In the Congo here, this is foreign interference, because they want a disorganized Congo to continue the route. You've heard what this ambassador who was thrown out of the African Union has been saying. She made noise until finally the French had to rethink that money, that the reserves that are kept in their countries. These are things we must talk about. So there is external interference, but there is also internal bad politics. Sometimes it is wrong overstaying power. Sometimes it's mistreating our own people. You have your own citizens, but you are treating them like they are subjects. So these are some of the issues, but regional integration will help us resolve some of these issues.
Uganda as a country is going to benefit much on this agreement, though it will cost government revenue.
One time I was talking to some people, and they said, but for us, we're not even benefiting the ESC. And the thinking is the ESC should bring money and put in the pocket. The ESC should bring food and put on the table. No, when you buy cement at a cheaper price, when you buy something imported from another country at a cheaper price, you're already benefiting, because of what we call the welfare effects. You get what I'm saying? So, the thinking that the benefits are going to be like some tree somewhere you're going to harvest oranges should be discarded. Instead, how does Uganda benefit as a country? With me here is a paper that I recently published at the EPRC. I did an analysis to see for the entire ESC what is in for us in this whole thing of the East African community. And if I may give some figures. If I may give some figures, in terms of what we call the welfare effect, we will have some serious welfare effects, good welfare effects, because we have reduced prices of the commodities coming in. So there will be positive welfare effects. And the countries, Uganda will have a positive welfare effect. I think even Burundi, the entire ESC as a whole, because of you. What do you mean by welfare effect? Something you're buying 10,000, now you're buying it at 6,000 because the tax has been removed and because more is coming in. Those are what we call welfare effects to the consumers. If you're consuming anything imported from any of these countries, that's how you benefit. Two, intermediates that produce for us commodities by factories will be coming in at a lower price. So the producers will also be gaining something, which again goes back to what? To the consumer. Now the issue that will not be positive is government loses what? Taxes. But we normally, government is an agent in economics. Individuals, households are agents, okay? Business entities are agents. Now we normally argue it out as economists that actually when you do this kind of thing, you transfer what would be government revenue from government to individuals and producers. Assuming a commodity costs 10 units of money, and because of the tax is going to cost maybe 8, okay? Now the loss of government by those 2 units goes to the what? To these other entities. So revenue loss, indeed it happens, but when we increase the amount of goods, when they come in the country and then we charge VAT and then we charge excise duty, we still don't lose much. Now there will be creation of trade to a very big magnitude. Of the entire ESC countries, Burundi will create the biggest, from my analysis, the biggest trade, to create more trade. Uganda will create more trade, Kenya will create more trade, maybe Rwanda may not create a lot of trade. So there is trade creation as a positive effect to that. This is empirical, we did analysis to prove that. But also, there will be free movement of people if we can achieve that. Now, alongside this official treaty, the agreement, there is a number of countries that have signed, there are 22 of them, free movement of persons. It's not official, but we think this can be built on, that people can move from one country to another to learn new things, to go and establish themselves and do other things. So there will be that one. But also another benefit is investment. You see, the moment you have a bigger market, an investor will come knowing that if I'm going to manufacture in Uganda, I'm selling the entire ESA. Now we are talking about 1.2 billion persons. So whoever comes to Africa knows they will sell their commodities also. So we will attract investment. Then there will be other benefits that come along. Some of the benefits, countries will not fight, I can assure you. Do you know that if the ESC were not in this ESC thing, probably would have had a war? You remember the animosity? Maybe that's a strong word. The challenges between Burundi and Rwanda, then between Uganda and Rwanda. And you had people saying, why don't we go and fight? But because we're in a regional integration, this thing makes it difficult. Traditionally, let me talk traditionally. When you're married from a Muslim family, the thing that is, but no, our son married that family. Let's not fight this battle. So this thing will help reduce some of the conflicts we have here. So you can enumerate as many as possible, but there are benefits.
The operational phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area was subsequently launched during the 12th extraordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union in Niamey, Niger on 7th July 2019. The African Continental Free Trade Area will be governed by 5 operational instruments, which includes rules of origin, the online negotiating forum, the monitoring and elimination of non-tariff barriers, a digital payment system, and the African Trade Observatory. Sadam Ubale, Smart 24 TV, border to border.